Living in Lexington, Kentucky for the past 3 months, I've noticed how prevalent homelessness is throughout the community. The Lexington Rescue Mission is a nonprofit organization right here in Lexington whose mission, according to their website, is to, quote, to glorify God through Christ-centered ministry that meets the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of hurting people in the greater Lexington area, end quote. The Lexington Rescue Mission was started by Becky and Jim Connell in 2001. At first glance, the organization seems to be doing great things for the Lexington community, and from the information provided on their website, they seem to have opened a lot of services that claim to be helpful. After a while, though, things seem to have started falling apart. According to the timeline provided on their website, a lot of their major services they provided closed and no new ones opened. This raises concern about whether or not this organization is reliable for the patrons and if they are doing what they claim to be doing. We need to know what the reason is behind the closing of these services. In order to discover the reason for this, we had to look at all possibilities because there are so many reasons they close services. As a group, we looked at the history of organizations like this, the functions the services have in the community, and the Lexington Rescue Mission compared to others like it throughout Kentucky. For my project, I focused on the financial status of the Lexington Rescue Mission. I plan to look into what it costs to run an organization like this compared to how the Lexington Rescue Mission is handling their financials. I hope to, in the end, discover whether or not this is the reason for the Lexington Rescue Mission services closing. The Lexington Rescue Mission provides a wide variety of services from clothing and food drives to a free health clinic. With such a wide variety of services provided, the question of how does this organization pay for all these arises. Through intensive research, I came to an understanding that all of the money needed for these services comes strictly from donors. After an interview with Laura Carr, the Director of Development for the Lexington Rescue Mission, a lot of my prior questions I had were answered. I asked her questions regarding the financials of the organization and the ways that the Lexington Rescue Mission fundraises. Laura Carr explains that, quote, we've raised funds through a variety of methods, but our largest fundraising is done via direct mail, which is sending mail to our donors asking for money and informing them how their gifts are making an impact, end quote. This answers my question on where they get their funds for these services. According to Laura Carr, quote, it costs about $100,000 per month to run the mission. That includes direct programming, administration, and fundraising expenses, end quote. The Lexington Rescue Mission cannot run if they do not have the funds that they need, so it is crucial to get this money through fundraising. An important part of fundraising is the marketing aspect of it. An article that I read regarding this titled Marketing for a Nonprofit Organization, written by Evangela Bleary, explains the importance marketing has on the fundraising for a nonprofit organization like the Lexington Rescue Mission. The article claims that, quote, most nonprofit organizations are not selling products. They are selling their organization's missions, their ideas, their programs, and their services, end quote. So, what is this article saying is that instead of trying to sell the products, or in this case services, they should sell their beliefs and mission so that people have more of a connection with the organization. By using this tactic, people will generally donate more money and become more invested into the organization. After reading this, I thought that it was necessary to look into the Lexington Rescue Mission's marketing in order to determine if they are doing all that they can to fundraise the money that they need, and maybe more, or if this is a reason for some of their services closing. I decided to also ask Laura Carr about this. I asked her, what are some ways that the Lexington Rescue Mission gets the word out about their organization? She answered, quote, we market our organization in a variety of ways, including through our website, email marketing, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, traditional media like newspaper, TV appearances, and charitable giving sites such as GuideStar, GivingNet.net, etc., and speaking engagements at churches, community groups, schools, and businesses. We also encourage people to take advantage of our tours and special events to get us to know us personally, end quote. This makes it seem as though the Lexington Rescue Mission tries to reach out to as many people as they can. I can tell this by the amount of social media accounts they have. In order to fully determine if they are marketing in ways that are beneficial to their organization, I would need to see if their marketing strategies are working. Just because they have a lot in place does not mean that they are reaching out to the community in ways that are beneficial to the organization. Also, in my conversation with Laura Carr, we discussed the financial cost for the members. I concluded from the Lexington Rescue Mission's website that the participants do not have to pay for the health clinic, clothing, and food that they receive, but I did discover, however, that the participants of the outreach center pay out of pocket for rent. Laura Carr claims that, quote, "The only clients who pay anything out of pocket are our residents who live in the transitional house. Their rent is a sliding scale based on income and does not exceed 33% of their income. They only pay rent after they have found employment or are receiving Social Security. So, we don't charge residents who do not have an income," end quote. I wonder why the Lexington Rescue Mission makes the residents of the transitional house pay rent. Is there a reason behind this? Do they do it to try and get the participants used to paying rent, or do they do it because they cannot sustain to keep the transitional home open without the residents paying rent? This would be an interesting topic to look further into. Not only am I going to look into the reason for the transitional home rent, but also look into further researching the reason behind the closing of their services and their marketing strategies. From my research, it seems as though the Lexington Rescue Mission has their financials under control. There seems to not be any holes within their donation system or their net profits that I looked at. Though at first glance it seems to be good, I wonder if I dig deeper that I will find more information on the financial status. My goal is to determine the reason behind the closing of their services and discover if it has anything to do with money.